Hello, welcome back to Pinkfish Inc. Today, I'm going to do a short tutorial on how to use Jupyter notebooks in the context of Pinkfish. So let's go to our Linux VM and open a console window. I'm going to change directory to our Pinkfish directory, and then we're going to run Jupyter Notebook. Okay, the first thing you'll see is essentially a file browser on this side. And I'll point out a couple of places. The area that the example code is in the examples directory. And also all of the backend code for Pinkfish is under Pinkfish. All right. Also, my own private code is under strategies. And I suggest that you can create your own strategies folder, and that gets excluded from the Git repo. So if you ever contribute, that you won't accidentally push your strategies up into the repo. Okay, so that said, I'm going to do a quick tour of how I use Jupyter Notebooks in the context of Pinkfish. Excuse me. Open the examples directory, and we'll do the simplest one, buy and hold. Jupyter Notebook is divided into these groups called cells. And I suggest that you group your code this way into these small chunks, because these chunks, excuse me, are executable individually. So it's nice to have them split up this way. The cells themselves can be either a markdown cell or a code cell or a header cell. Header would be if you're doing some sort of title. I don't ever use the raw NB convert. I'm not sure what that is exactly. But we could look at it and see. Well, that's what it looks like. I'm not sure what it's for. Anyway, this is a markdown here. The ones I use are almost always markdown or code. So this is a markdown cell, and you can look up tutorials on how to use markdown. So that's a markdown cell, and then this is the code cell, and you can look at this drop down and see that it changes based on which one you click on. Okay, you don't have to use markdown cells, but it's kind of nice to have those to give yourself some spruce up your notebook a little bit. Now, to execute this entire notebook, it's very simple. You just say cell run all, and then the entire notebook will be executed. Now, once the notebook executes, you can go to any of these cells and execute that particular cell by itself. And you do that by, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can do a shift enter, and it will run that cell. And you can see that number change to a 10. That's because the last cell that ran was a 9. And so that's just kind of like an index to show you. But you can change the code in here. I could change like the symbol from SPY to QQQ and Control C, and it actually executed that. Nothing really happened here because the time series fetch happens in the next cell, but it would have. I'll change this back. If you want to see something more visible, we could look at like start and execute that. You can see that it's 2015, but if I change that line there, So it's 2016. You can see that it actually did execute that. So that's what you can do. You can start at any point in here and execute the code. I can go here and a shift enter and re-execute that code. I can make changes to the cell and then re-execute it. It's pretty neat stuff. If you need to, so there's a lot of editing capabilities, and it's based around the concept of the cell. So you can insert another cell below that one, like this. So you could put more code in here, and you can obviously, Control C for copy, Control V, all that sort of stuff works. And then you can, there's insert cell above, insert cell below, and then this cell menu item itself, you can do, besides run all, you can run all the cells above the cell you're currently in. That's useful sometimes. You can also run all the cells below the one you're in. The menu selections here are pretty simple. There's not that many of them, but I found that there's nothing really lacking here. There's a find and replace. You can delete cells like this. There's undo. Excuse me. Undo, delete cells. So Kernel, this is the back-end code that's running, the code that's behind this code. So in terms of Pinkfish, let's go back to the console. If I'll go into the Pinkfish code, and I'm going to bring this up in a text editor. I'm just going to bring up all the .py files. So you can see all these files here. If I were to make a change to any of these files, let's say to the fetch, let's say I made a change to the fetch function, and trying to think of some simple change I can make. Let's say that I needed to change the state from 1971 to whatever, let's say 1972, for some reason, whatever. I need to save this, okay? And then this isn't automatically going to be reflected in this notebook. I have to essentially reload this. So I say kernel, restart, and clear output, or you can do it just to restart if you want. Clear output clears the all these output cells. So I'm going to say restart and clear output, and I say yes. Now, when you run this, it's going to load up that new code change that I just made. Can't really see the difference here because I didn't make any change that would show itself here. But if you don't do that, you're not going to be pulling in the new code. And occasionally, I'll make that mistake, and I made some change, and it's not showing up here as being changed. And then I'll say, I must have forgot to restart the kernel. Another little trick I use when I'm trying to debug stuff sometimes is, for example, let's say I'm trying to debug this function here, select trade period. I will actually copy this code into Jupyter Notebook, and you can see where this is called here, this fetch. And let's create a new cell above this. So insert cell above. Okay, and then that's that select function. I pulled out of there. Now, instead of calling the Pinkfish version of it, right, I'll just call this version of it like this. And now, whatever changes, so let me run this code, cell run all. So it's actually calling this select trade period function. And now I can go through and make changes in here that I can test more easily inside of here. And let's say I'd actually, this needed to be set to true instead of false. So that's one change I could make to it. And now this use adjusted, the default's going to be true. Now it's getting set explicitly here to false. But in any case, I'm just showing you that you could make some changes in here. And just to prove that it's actually doing something, maybe I'll put an error in here. So I'll forget to close off that list. Now you should see an error. You can see that it's got the invalid syntax. So let me change it back now again. Cell run all. And then when I get this function the way I want it, I'll just copy it here. I'll paste it back into here. Right? And then I'll save this, go back to Jupyter Notebook. Now I can remove this. Okay, I removed that cell. And now I need to make sure I call the Pinkfish version again. Okay. Now we reload the kernel, and then we can rerun it. And when we run in the new version of that function. Okay, that worked pretty well. Let me pause the video for a second. The things I wanted to point out is that you don't have to, for example, here, I wanted to show the start date. You don't have to say print to get that printed out. Okay, all you got to do is going to automatically print whatever last thing is in the cell. Okay, so that's really convenient, and it doesn't matter what type it is. For example, in this case, I just have a TS here, so it's going to print this entire time series with that TS. If I wanted to look at the daily balance here, I'd do this and Shift Enter, and it's, for some reason, sometimes it doesn't actually show you what you want. It's showing like this value. I don't, at this moment, don't remember why it's doing that. Okay, so let's try it here. Uh-oh. Cell runoff. There we go. We got the daily balance showing up here. And lastly, I wanted to mention that this thing does autosave in the background. So when you make changes, and it will run the changed code, you don't have to save it. So if I change this, I want to display the end instead. I can just change it and run it. I can also run the whole thing, and it's going to use those changes. I don't have to save the file. And the other thing is autosave is happening in the background every few seconds, and it's saving off your latest changes. It won't let you leave the notebook if you've got unsaved changes. So, for example, if I make this change and I try to leave the notebook, it's going to tell me, do you want to stay on the page or leave the page? So I'm going to say stay on the page. And then when I do want to exit, I can save. If it's done an autosave, it's not going to prompt you for that. Well, that's a short intro to Jupyter Notebook in the context of Pinkfish, and I hope that was helpful. See you later.